So I can see there's a couple of people joining now, so that's great. Welcome to anyone who has just joined. Feel free in the chat to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from. We will get started very, very soon, but for those of you who haven't met us yet, another couple of people are joining us, so hi everyone who's jumping on. What we were going to try and get done in this webinar today was trying to give you the steps that you need to get going on your Seachange. So this is one of 3 live webinars that we're hosting. And so the more that we actually hear from you guys throughout the process today, the more you'll actually get out of it. So we've deliberately kept these pretty small. So they're kind of hopefully packed with value if you guys, oh, hey, Mel from Perth. Denmark is, wow, I love Denmark. I was born in Perth myself. So hi, Mel. So we're really going to try and keep this to half an hour. Please go ahead and ask any questions and we'll definitely try and get to them at the end.
Or throughout. So she's Kate and I'm Emma, and thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to take you through this training and get you started on your Seachange journey.
So what we're hoping by the end of this webinar is that you'll have a heap more clarity about what you need to do to escape the city and have learnt the 3 steps that you need to do to make your Seachange. So let's get into it.
So let's just start off by saying, we know what it's like to come from a stressful city environment. When there's just traffic everywhere, you might have that never-ending kind of conveyor belt feeling of just always being in a faceless crowd kind of thing. At least that's how I felt. We were definitely stuck in a high-debt lifestyle that just didn't bring us that much satisfaction. And the stress really was just overwhelming. For me, it was almost crippling at times. I was up working crazy hours, sending emails in the middle of the night. There was always constantly so much going through my head and I just needed to get out. It was not a healthy environment for me. And the time that I had and the time that you might have to spend with family and friends it's not what you want it to be. There's always the constant distractions and there was just never enough headspace to sit and relax. You're always rushing around with a million things on your to-do list. Such a great photo. No time or space.
So I guess what we're trying to get everyone to do in the webinar today, oh, there's someone else joining, hi, is try and get you to actually put all of those feelings aside and start having a think about an alternative life. So one where you've got more time to spend with your family, where you're not sitting in the traffic anymore or commuting for hours, and one where you've actually just got a bit more space for all of the things that you want to do, whether it's the kids running around in the backyard or maybe you want to have chickens or, have a great garden. Just generally moving out of the city will mean that you have a little bit more space for those sorts of things. And then the other thing that we want you to have a think about is actually just having more freedom. So the freedom to do the things that you want to do. Both Em and I, Em's my sister-in-law, by the way. My husband is her brother. Mm-hmm. That's very confusing. So both of us are much more connected to ourselves, to nature, and to our families, which was obviously a very big one for both of us, having come from the city where, it's got a very different focus than, making a Seachange.
So both Kate and I, we've already well on our way. Kate lives in the bush and I live by the beach. And we really want to help others. If they do want to get out of the rat race, we want to give you the support that you might need to have that little extra push to actually go and do it. And by the way, when we talk about a Seachange, it's it's an Australian term really. So if you're from America or London, we don't think that there's an equivalent term, but if you do have one, let us know in the comments. So we simply mean moving out of the city and to the bush or to the beach, wherever takes your fancy.
So just to quickly introduce ourselves, that's me on the left-hand side of your screens. So when as Em said, I'm in the bush, so I moved from the middle of Sydney and in a suburb called Petersham and in the inner west. And I was in a high-stress kind of corporate job running a marketing department with, more than 10 people in it. I had 2 young daughters. That's them there when they were that age. They were 3 and 1. And it was at the height of the property boom in Sydney. And we were about to spend a ridiculous amount of money on a house, which was just leaving me feeling so overwhelmed and trapped in my job and needing to pay the mortgage. So I started questioning the point of it all. What did I really want out of life? What was I working 60 to 70 hours a week to pay for a house and a lifestyle that, I don't know, I didn't even have the time to enjoy? I had to figure out what was important to me and work out what the things were that mattered and what was I teaching my kids about what was important in life. Long story short, we basically moved. I quit my job. We ended up buying 11 acres in the middle of the Byron hinterland, which I wouldn't recommend to everybody, but hey, we did it. And I can now work. I started a marketing consultancy business and I work from home, which looks like a very different life from the one that I had in Sydney. So I've got more time to spend with the family, the freedom to work from wherever I want. And it was a massive move, and I'm not going to lie about that. And we've had our challenges. I'm also not going to say when you make your Seachange that life is one long, blissful experience, because it's not. And we've had our challenges, as I said, but honestly, I've never looked back, like ever. And over to you, Em.
And how's the view from your balcony? Too good.
Yeah.
So my life story is very similar to Kate's. I spent a good 15 years in the corporate world in marketing as well, and business and property and that sort of thing. And then 5 years ago, it kind of all came to a bit of a breaking point for me and literally felt like I was just losing it. And we made the move from Melbourne down to the Mornington Peninsula. And it's just been pretty awesome, really. I was heavily pregnant when we left the city, so that was a very big challenge, and got down to the coast and just really relaxed into it, really. We've started our own animation business all the way back then, and it's just really starting to thrive now, actually, just really going gangbusters. 12 months ago, we went to New Zealand and spent 6 months traveling and working there. So that's one of the fantastic things about having our own online business. We can really do it from anywhere. And there's my little family and our dog down at the beach where we like to hang out.
So I think, and the reason that I put this slide in as well is I was, during the sort of crazy time, I came across this quote from Seth Godin. He's a quite insightful guy. If you haven't heard of him before, you can read some of his stuff. So he said, instead of wondering where your next vacation is, maybe you should set up a life that you don't need to escape from. And, we wanted to know if this rang true for anyone. I certainly read that, and it rang true for us because I spend all of our time and money basically trying to go on holidays. And when I read this, I thought, oh, that actually makes total sense. And interestingly enough, the first year that we were here, we didn't go on a holiday the entire year, and that was quite significant for us. So let's get into the 3 core steps that we've designed so that we can help you get started on your Seachange. If you've got any questions, as I said, just chuck them into the chat box and we'll definitely get them at the end there.
Okay, so we've mapped out a 3-step process to take you from the rat race there on the left, where you might be feeling trapped exhausted, run down, first we need to get you to master your mind and really focus on what it is that you want. Then it's time to get motivated by creating your own unique map of how to get there. And finally, feeling empowered and making your move. And then you'll be feeling more freedom once you've made your sea change.
So getting a bit deeper into mindset, we've identified 3 categories within mindset. It's a big decision to make a sea change, and it can seem kind of overwhelming, at least it did to me. So this step is all about taking stock, getting clarity around purpose, and better understanding what stops you at the moment. So the reason that we take stock is basically just to clear away the cobwebs and get a really good snapshot of what your life is like right now, but in 9 key areas. So you can do a really easy assessment of whether a sea change is even the right step for you. Now, we're going to spend a good sort of 5 to 10 minutes on how to do this and give you the things that you need to do that, the tools. So we'll go into that a little bit more as we go through. The other thing that we recommend everybody does is really have a think about what you're here for. So what your purpose is, what you actually want out of life, working out what's important to you and what makes you happy, and then actually just designing a bit of a plan to get to where you want to. And that clarity helps you really sort of forge a path for yourself. And lastly, there is going to be a heap of things thrown in your way, niggling fears and doubts. What if it doesn't work? We hear that one a lot. How would I deal missing my friends and my family, which is actually quite a big problem for most people when they first make the move. What work would I do? How am I going to make money? But being aware of what the obstacles are before means that you can kind of face them head on. And when you know what you're going to be afraid of, when the fear monster raises its ugly head, it's just a lot easier to manage. So that's mindset.
Okay, so now that you're razor sharp on clarity about what you want, the second step, it's really the fun bit. It's my favorite. So creating your own unique map. So firstly, it's all about the money, right? So both Kate and I work from home and we've got online businesses, but that's really not going to suit everyone. We totally get that. We did a recent survey and we know that the biggest obstacle for most people when thinking about a sea change is what are they going to do for work? There's really plenty of options when it comes to considering what you'd like to do. Perhaps you could retrain, arrange something flexible with your current employer, or at least just to get you started, and then consider what there might be in your new location. Or buying an established business, or perhaps an online business like what we've done. Then it's time to turn your focus to where you want to go. And sitting down with your loved ones to discuss the deal breakers and the must-haves. Does it have to be close to the city? Do you need to go back there for occasional meetings? Do you like hot or cold weather, or something as simple as do you prefer to be in a forest or by the beach, or both? What are the non-negotiables for you and your family? And do you need any facilities nearby, like schools or healthcare? And then finally, once you've figured that out, it's on to the practical stuff. So you'll have an idea of where you're going to go, what you're going to do. And this step is really the tools to make that happen. So things like budgeting spreadsheets, planning, checklists, what to say to your family and friends. Sometimes they can be a real challenge to tell them that you're moving somewhere else. And then how to actually make that move physically.
Excuse me. And then we're on to the third step. So this is the actual move itself. And other than the physical move, which we sort of cover off in the last part of MAP, the final step for a successful sea change, we think, is trying to make that transition period as seamless as possible. So the first thing that we think is really vital is creating a really good, solid self-care routine. So if you're not functioning the best that you can, then your sea change is basically at risk of failure. It's kind of like putting the oxygen mask on yourself before helping others. And Em and I are really big on this part. Em's a regular yogi well, I don't know if that makes you a yogi, and I am up early in the morning and walking every day, and then doing a meditation at lunchtime, which is something I would never have been able to get done in the city, that's for sure. And the other middle part there is the support network. It is so important to get the right support. Not having the right support has been the undoing of many a sea change in our experience. So there's heaps of strategies that we both use to navigate this tricky problem. One of the most key areas that we find is making sure you seek out ways that you can be an active part of your new community, because sort of clinging on to the old one as, desperately makes it a little bit, more difficult. You get that homesickness feeling. But there are ways, if we have a look at point C, that we can, that we suggest that can make that transition easier for you and your family. Things like Skype and wine dates, I am a big fan of, for example, with your old mates. Okay.
So when we put it all together, you can see that once you've got the right mindset, it will lead you on to be motivated, and you'll be in a great spot to create your map, which gives you the purpose to make your move. And then you'll really feel empowered to live with more freedom in your life and live a life that you've always wanted to, I suppose.
So that's the kind of 3 steps that we have designed. And obviously there's 9 parts within those. What we want to spend, we've sort of halfway. So what we want to do is spend sort of the next wee while going through what we call the art of taking stock. So this is the first step in the mindset part of the process. So this is where we get you to have a really good look at 9 key areas of your life. I got taught this model as a tool by about 10 years ago by when I was doing an Oriental psychology course. So it's based on sort of a very old ancient Chinese philosophy. Thank you to my teacher. So what we get you to have a look at are career, wealth, health, family, relationships, friends, stillness, personal growth, and fun and adventure. So the reason that we do this is it's kind of exactly like a spring clean. And what it's really important to do when you're about to go and make a big change like this, we think, is you've got to get rid of all the clutter and really clear away those cobwebs that it sometimes is really hard to see what it is that you actually want because there's too many things running around in your head. So what this does is it gives you some clarity, and it gives you an awareness about yourself and your situation. And makes you aware about the things that make you happy, and identify areas that might need cleaning up and your attention. So it might not even be once you've done this that you're like, oh, if I just move, all of these things are just going to move with me. So it's really important at this point, I think, to just get clear on why it is that you're moving, and is moving going to be the thing that's actually going to be the answer to all of your prayers. So studies have shown that when we're self-aware, and this is obviously a self-awareness tool, we're more confident, we're more creative, we make sounder decisions, which is super important. We have better relationships, and we can obviously communicate to everyone much more effectively. So that's obviously a big plus. So in getting warmed up, we'd love it if someone could just chuck in what makes you happy. Em, what makes you happy?
Hanging out at the beach with the dolphins.
Well, dolphins make anybody happy, don't they? Gosh, dolphins. I guess for me, it's always been nature. So hanging out in nature obviously makes me feel happy. So yeah, what we've found when we've asked this question before is most people say, oh, Mel's come in with having spare time. to do what I feel like at the time. Yes, and that for me is a really important one because it's about spontaneity. And cooking from scratch. I love you, Mel. So what we can, you need a lot of time to cook from scratch. My husband does that. I'm not the cooker. And Jay says nature for me too. Awesome. Most people say, other than cooking, which, as I said, my husband would love, it's spending time with friends and family. It's in nature, as Jay suggested. It's doing exercise or moving in some way. It's doing something for other people. Like if when you get that feeling of like, I feel so great when I've done that thing for that person. So and a lot of people are actually really happy when they're being creative, which I think is no surprise either. So what we can see most of the time is that people are unhappy in meaningless jobs when they're stuck in traffic or bored, and when they're weighed down by the pressure of their life. But what Em and I want you guys to know is that it just doesn't have to be like that all the time. And we're not saying that life won't be challenging. As I said before, when you make your sea change, all of your problems just don't disappear. But you can design your life so that you've got more of the good stuff that brings you more contentment more of the time.
Like that amazing waterfall, for instance.
Yeah, when it's on the big screen, you can see that it's actually me, and I'm like, why have I got a photo of myself in a bikini on the screen? But anyway.
Life goals. So this is the first of 3 worksheets where we ask you to answer 3 or 4 questions for each area of your life. It's really, really important to just be as honest and answer them quickly. Whatever first thing is that comes to your head is usually how you're feeling. And then don't be judgmental about your answers. Like, there's definitely no right answer. So I'll ask Kate as an example, one of the career questions here. So Kate, do you enjoy what you do?
So I do enjoy the communication part of my job, and I love managing people. Like, it's one of the things that is, when I've sort of come away and stepped away from the management role, it's one of those things that I've really missed. I do love the marketing part, and I love being able to sort of have lots of different plates spinning in the air. And I've really loved working on the Seachange stuff because, to me, helping other people do something similar to us is like, it's freaking awesome. But it's certainly not the thing that earns me the cash right now. So the marketing gig is there and it's solid and I do enjoy it, but it's not what I'm super passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
So when we'll do one for you, Em. How are you good? Are you open to making new friends when we're looking at the friends side?
Yes, I am open to making new friends, but as I mentioned, I've been in this town now for 5 years. So I just realized that at a festival that we went to on the weekend, it was amazing. But I knew pretty much almost everyone there. I still had some excellent conversations with some new people, but yeah, I'm kind of at capacity with the friends thing now. But that said, if I meet someone new who's just arrived in the community, I remember what it was like it was yesterday. So I fully embrace them with open arms, probably a bit too much. I'm the freaky new lady in the town. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm kind of the same, like 2 years, and I remember what it was like to be new. So yeah, I'm always that person that's like, oh, hi, welcome. But being part of a small community, and a lot of people considering making a sea change, that's what they're looking for. I think is that small community vibe. Like I think there's 750 people that live in our. I don't even know if it's a suburb, but you would have seen most of them down at the shops by now, and definitely know quite a few of their names. So the third and final, just to give everybody an example, this is not a workbook. There's 3 pages that it should take you any longer than half an hour. And what we want you to do, we're going to send you the workbook after. You just need to write down super quickly So, you know, that kind of quickly, your answers. And that means it's probably more going to be more honest if you don't sit there and deliberate too often, for too long. So half an hour, and try and sort of bash through those questions. And if you get stuck on one, just move on to the next one. So you're going to pick one more?
Should we do one for stillness, Kate? Just to put you on the spot. So do you make time for yourself?
Well, I still have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and that's tricky to do, but it is something that, as I said, I make sure I do my walk in the morning. And whilst that's not still, I kind of have always been a moving kind of meditation person, and I just walk and think. And other than that, I need to do a better job of making time for myself, because if I'm doing anything, it's usually social. So I need to actually make sure, I don't know, there's a choir that's sort of looking to start that I was thinking, oh God, I'd love to just belt out a few tunes on a Wednesday night. And that would be something that I would love. Anyway, that's weird. That's just me though. So
that sounds great. A choir sounds magnificent, Kate. Do that, most definitely. Okay, so how did you go? So this will be in your workbook as well, and it's as simple as giving yourself a score out of 5 for each of the 9 categories and then tallying them up. Yes, let's talk a little bit about what it means.
Yeah.
So when you've reviewed your score, ask yourself, do you want to change how your life is unfolding right now? You know, we're taught from an early age that our lives should follow a certain mold. You finish school, you study, you work hard, you find a partner, hopefully they're amazing, you start a family, you work hard, you buy a house, you work hard again, a bit more work, and then you put your kids through school, and then, you know, you barely see them, and then they've gone. And then finally you retire when you're about 70 or so. And my mother's here at the moment. She's visiting from New Zealand, and she's amazing. But she's had knee surgery, like a whole knee replacement. So she was down at the beach today. She couldn't really walk on the sand that well. So, like, I ask myself, and pretty much everyone I come across, like, why is society designed this way? And really, we call BS on this whole thing that you have to wait until you're retired to live a life that you want to. You know, why wait until your twilight years to do the things that make you happy? Particularly getting caught in the high debt sort of cycle, when you just don't have to. And we want to really help and to empower you to discover that there is an alternative, and, you know, there is a way that you can do more things that bring you joy right now. Why wait?
So one of the things, and I know that we've only got a few minutes left, but when you look at one last thing, just talking about sort of material things. So the happiness report that was released in 2017 showed that the main things that make people happy all over the world are solid relationships, a job or a pastime that they love, and helping others. And interestingly, and Em, I reckon we're winning here, apparently those people who live in rural or regional areas tend to be happier than those who live in the city. Yay. And people who put a lot of emphasis on money and things are just not as happy as non-materialistic people. Now, in saying that, we're not saying get out of the city and become, you know, live on a shoestring and be poor. That's absolutely not what we're saying, because neither of us are in that boat whatsoever. And there are 1,000 people who are like, you know, this will make you happy and that will make you happy. We're not saying, you know, this is our recipe for eternal happiness. But what we can say is that our solution to the age-old conundrum was just to figure out what made us happy and try and make it happen more often. So, you know, life is never going to be 100% happiness, and anyone who tells you anything else is telling you a bullshit lie. So the question that are you really happy the most that you can be in your life right now? And if the answer is no, and if the answer is yes, then, you know, what are you doing on the webinar? But if you think there's more to life than what you're getting now, you can start to make the positive change in your life. So we reckon that everybody at some point in their lives are kind of faced with a fork in the road. And you're here maybe because you're ready to take a different path. You've definitely got a choice in the way that you live. And we say now is the time to choose. So the thing about sea changes is when I was embarking on my sea change and I had 1,000 questions, I was on the phone to Em, I was on the phone to all these other people going, what about this? What about that? What about moving to this area? What about this person? What do I do about this? What about work? Oh, holy shit, work's not working. And so we created a course that's called Free Your Life, and it kind of has all the information I wished I had when I was on my sea change. So if you're looking to kind of fast track your sea change and get inspiration, support, and again, we keep coming back to support, but just some really funky tools to make a similar move, then we would say that enrolling in the course might make sense for you. It's a 3-step course and it's over 12 weeks, and that gives you everything you need to get you on your way. So because you've gone through the webinar, we're saying we'll offer you guys 40% off the enrollment. So that makes it $89. So for $89, we reckon a 12-week course with over 15 hours of video content, workbooks, checklists, and other tools is pretty cool. And plus, and now I feel like I'm about to say we're going to give you a set of steak knives, which we're not, although for you, Mel, that might work quite well considering that you love cooking. We were going to say we'd love to have a chat with you one-on-one, just to really kind of get a sense of where you're at and see how it is that we could kind of make it even faster, fast track the faster. So
$89. Absolute bargain at $89. Lastly, it is only for 48 hours, this special deal, so get on it. How beautiful is my little girl running through the forest there?
Yeah, she's so cute. So I guess we really hope that the training was helpful. I guess we're just to remind you, we're trying at the outset to give people a way to see a path to a sea change, and outline some steps that you could take that would get you on the pathway, and also get you going on the first step. And the first step, as we think, is you should just get totally clear on what it is that you want and what's going on in those 9 key areas of your life. So we really do think it's about getting the right mindset first, and then creating your map, and then moving. And we really honestly could not hope for more than you would choose a similar path to what we've done. And if nothing else, if we can get a few 100 people or whatever it might be, and we could die happier knowing that there are that many people out of the city and living a life that they love, with more space and more time and more freedom to do the things that they want to do. So we hope you found the training useful. Has anyone got any questions? We're happy to hang back. Or what we'll do is also send through the information that we've just gone through so that you can have a bit of a look at it. And hopefully the quality of it is not too bad. So because Em and I particularly live in the middle of nowhere, the internet is a bit of a problem, but hey. But it was great to see you all in here today. We'll shoot through the replay in case anyone missed it. I can see that there's somebody that's just joined us. So hello, but it's the end. So we'll send through the replay. And goodbye. So we'll send through the replay. And as I said, feel free to reply to any of the emails. Em and I will get them. And we're happy to help in whatever way that we can, because we want as many people out of the city and out of that rat race. We honestly have never looked back. Anything from you, Em?
I suppose one thing that's a really common theme with so many people who I talk to is that they wish they'd done it sooner, particularly people who wait until their children have finished school and they're out of home and then they choose to make their sea change. If anything, it's more difficult for them because, that we can bond with people who also have young kids. It's really a lot easier when you're in that school community or a smaller community. Taking advice from people in their 50s, why did I wait? Should have done it sooner, should have brought up my kids, in a safe, small community kind of vibe. And the other thing we should probably mention is that we have a closed Facebook group as well, called Seachange Community. And we're really hoping to have, at least a couple of people in every town. And, it's worked perfectly. Just recently, I had a friend that moved up to a small town in Queensland who I just happened to know another person who moved there a year ago. So they've met up for coffee. One of them's helped the other settle into that community. And we'd really love to see that on a global scale. So join the Facebook group as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Jay. You're welcome.